Hey, it's your girl Janae, and for those who don't know me, I am a wife, mom, blogger, self-care nut on occasion, and I am your host for the Chop Up. If you have a story you want to share with me and our now included community, email us. Write us if you're into the Pony Express thing. Or if you're feeling like Tyler Perry, shoot us a video, a smoke signal, or something. Your story is important, and I want to chop it up with you. We're going to give y'all a minute to enter into the room. Okay. We got people from all over the globe. We have California in the room. We have Atlanta, Georgia, Alabaster, Alabama.
I've never heard of that.
Yes, Birmingham, Alabama. Okay. Well, we're glad you guys are here to join with us. I truly appreciate your time, Nisi. I wanted to bring you in because I know you have a journey that you would love to tell us about. And just, we're going to dive deep into that so everybody can be familiar with what we all know is fibromyalgia.
Okay.
Now, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Y'all know I got my feet in all different kind of ponds. I'm a RN. That's my first love. I'm also I love DIY. I got a whole room. This whole room is for my DIY stuff. Um, what else about me? I have a blog called Entertainment Tea Uncut, and I blog on several different platforms. I'm also a writer for Fearless Life magazine, so I try to do things to keep my mind busy.
Okay. All I'm hearing is you're a jack of all trades, and I'm here for that. I love it.
I
I love
try
it.
to, baby. I try
Well,
to.
at least you're staying busy. That's number one.
Right.
But with all that being said, I definitely want to talk about what fibromyalgia is because when I researched this, of course, Google gave me like the science book version of what fibromyalgia is, and I'm thinking like, okay, musculoskeletal pain. I would love for you to tell us what is fibromyalgia.
Girl, it's pain. Let me break it all down to you. Like, the pain is really something that is difficult for people to deal with. People always ask me to describe the pain. And what I would say is that on my good days, it kind of feel like normal people whenever they have the flu. That's my good day. Like the aches and pains and stuff that goes along with that. Um, it's a lot of fatigue. One day I can walk 3 miles. The next day I can only walk to get in the shower. So, the symptoms wax and wane along with chronic pain. Um, you got depression, anxiety, and that side of symptoms also. So it's a multifaceted disease, but what most people focus on is the pain that we go through.
Okay. Well, I mean, no one should have to experience that type of pain, especially on a day in and day out basis. I
Hmm.
want to take it back because the time that you first started to develop the symptoms, what did you experience? I mean, how did you feel like something is wrong here?
It started back in my teens, actually. I was about 14, 15, and I was just, especially around my period, like I would notice that I would be so tired I could barely go to school. Um, I have pain. I had pain very consistently. It was like a consistent pattern, but it wasn't as bad in my teens until I got 16. Once I turned 16, I was like, there's something wrong. I was having a lot of irritable bowel syndrome and things like
Mhm.
that. Um, and they didn't know what was wrong with me, So it was like one of those things that I kind of, just chunked it up and dismissed and went on about my life. Um, as I got older with the job that I had, being an RN, it was very demanding. Then I had a child. It got a little bit worse. I got in a car accident. It got a little bit worse. I had another child. It got a little bit worse. And then I had another car accident where it got a little bit worse. So it was a gradual pacing of the symptoms as I aged. Um, I was real lucky because I was diagnosed very early with fibromyalgia. Um, so it was I got immediate acknowledgement, but it took me putting my foot down and being a little bit of a butthole to get them to listen to me because they're looking at you like you're young, like what are you talking about? So yeah.
Mhm. Well, I want to know because I know you said you went to the doctor a little young when they diagnosed you. Prior to you going to the doctor, did you Google your symptoms? Like, because most of us, the first thing when, our eye is twitching a little bit or we can't stand for certain periods of time, we're immediately Googling our symptoms, like, what's wrong with me? Did you happen to Google anything prior to your diagnosis?
Baby, we are talking about the mid 90s. We did not have Google. We didn't have Google. We had Ask Jeeves back then. Okay.
Not
So,
SGs.
I asked Jeeves, and there was very, very little. Whenever I say little in the system, about 10 things popped up about fibromyalgia and the whole search history.
What
So
popped up?
it most of it was people describing their symptoms and YouTube channels where people was voicing their symptoms and diagnosis over there. One medical article popped up.
Mm. So
It
you
was
got your
very I was very early in the game.
Well, I'm glad that they were able to pinpoint, what exactly was going on so you can have a name to it. I mean, I know you
Mm.
said you had to be a little bit of a butthole, but I guess did you seek like a second opinion at that point to see, were the doctors there for you? Were they just giving you telling you something just to kind of get you out of their hair, putting a name
Ye-
on it?
Um, I felt like with my doctor that they referred me to from the ER, he was very understanding. But let me tell you this, he was a psychiatrist. They referred me to a psychiatrist because they felt like it was all in my head. I know that's how they felt. So they referred me to a psychiatrist, but luckily for me, it was a psychiatrist that had been studying fibromyalgia, and he was an internal medicine doctor also. So he was willing to take on the fibromyalgia clients, and help us out because nobody was helping fibromyalgia patients at that time. They were saying just deal with the pain, do your surface things to try to control the pain, and go from there. It was really no talk about fibromyalgia. It was kind of like one of those trash can type diagnoses because they don't know what's wrong with you. So yeah, I went to that doctor, and I felt a lot of support from him, and I was very lucky that I was referred to him out of the ER.
Well, I mean, I know you mentioned you kind of felt dismissed at some points, when you were trying to seek help for what was going on with you. Did they at any point suggest any clinical trials, something to test to see was there any way to make you feel better at that point?
Nothing. There were no clinical trials out there because, like I said, most physicians didn't even believe that it exists whenever I was diagnosed. So, no clinical trials, no medications at that point. Um, and the only thing they had to kind of patch a band-aid on us was giving us narcotic pain medicine. So that's how my journey started.
Do you remember any of the tests that you had to take or the tests that they put on?
Well, the test is primarily the same as it is today. They go by the patient history, and they also give you a physical exam where they're testing points in your body, which are called trigger points, and
Mhm.
seeing whether or not you have knots and pains in those trigger points. And that's still the basic diagnoses. But there are some new things that's coming, as far as the diagnoses of fibromyalgia, and maybe, um, you know, uh, well, last night I was reading on an interesting study out of England where they are thinking that fibromyalgia is a part of autoimmune diseases. So I really do think in the next few years it will be classified as an autoimmune disease. It's not right now, but I really do feel like it's autoimmune. They actually was able to test rats and gave them fibromyalgia antibodies, and um, they saw the same symptomology as they see in other pain conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and things like that.
That's very interesting, as you say, about the autoimmune disease. I mean, the fact that it can affect you so deeply. I know I was reading about how you can have brain fog with
Baby,
fibromyalgia. What is
that's
that
what
like?
it's like. I don't know how I missed that symptom a few minutes ago, because that's one of the things that I struggle with. Like somebody can tell me something and I be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I forget all about it. Like, or whenever, somebody's talking to you or I'm talking, it's like I lose my thought in the middle of the sentences. It almost feels like there's a layer of fog between me and you. And I'm trying my best to reach through the fog to figure out, how I'm gonna process this in my brain. So the fibro fog is one of the biggest issues I deal with. Also depression, anxiety, things like that.
What do you? I would say. I want to ask number one. What, if you don't mind sharing? That's first and foremost. What are some of the treatments that they, I guess, prescribe to you to help you
Um,
manage?
my doctor started me on narcotic pain medications, and I was very resistant at first. But I was in so much pain and had such a demanding job that I knew that I needed something so I could get up and go to work every day. At that time, manufacturers was touting OxyContin as a safe narcotic that wasn't addictive, that you wouldn't have the same withdrawal symptoms if you were to go off it. Like, they had a lot of hype behind um the whole OxyContin trend, and I got caught up in that because my doctor really felt like it was a breakthrough cure all for fibromyalgia because the drug company was touting that it wouldn't be addictive, and I knew better because of my profession. Like anything, like a narcotic pain medicine, you have the risk of people being addicted to it. You have risk of people taking more, just like any other pain medication. And I was very resistant at first, but then I said, I need something to keep me going and to keep me going to work. And the crazy thing about it is that the OxyContin does not even relieve my pain. It didn't relieve my pain. It just made my sensorium dulled where I didn't care so much that I was in pain, if you get what I'm saying. So that's how I lived life for a long time. You know, emotions being kind of dull because I was on pain medication and other treatments. They also put me on Neurontin, Flexeril, um, what else did they put me on? It was something else that I can't think of right at the second, but it
Mm-hmm.
was something else back then that they had put me on, and that's how kind of how I lived life up until a few years ago.
You know what's crazy, as you say, all of the medications that they were prescribing to you, not once did I hear any natural remedies.
No,
If at all, I mean, surely there were some at that time that could have helped, maybe. Had at any point in time, did anyone off suggest any natural remedies for as one of your providers?
no, I had to do my own research. I had to um, really be proactive in my own diagnosis and try to find support groups and different things that I could go to. And I learned a lot in those support groups um, from people who've been dealing with it, even longer than I had been dealing with it, like in the 80s. They would just tell people it was in their head and they were having to deal with all this pain and nobody would give them anything for it. Um, I I wish that I would have been more into holistic medicine back then, but I wasn't.
Mm. Well, that to me is very important because, like I said, oftentimes we're so focused on we need the pain to be fixed now, and we're so quick to jump towards medication as if that's the only thing that can relieve our symptoms at that time. So I'm glad to hear. Well, I'm not necessarily glad to hear that nobody suggested that, but I know you said that you were your own researcher and you believe that there were other options out there for you. So I applaud that.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask because to me, fibromyalgia is like, okay, is that hereditary? How, what did the doctors say was the reason why this condition happened to you? What was the
Um, they
cause?
they really thought because whenever I had that first accident, um, and my pregnancy is what triggered it in my body. Usually, usually whenever people are diagnosed, they have some kind of trigger. And for me, it was the hormonal changes while I was pregnant. Like, oh my God, I had so much pain in my pregnancy, preterm labor, all that kind of thing because my uterus is a muscle.
Mhm.
Fibromyalgia affects the muscles. So, I had a lot of problems in my pregnancy because my uterus will want to contract and hurt, but my little baby was in there. So
Mhm.
it's like I had to, um, really figure out how to slow down. But as I said, I was a new nurse and I had a very demanding job. So it was only so much I could do to relieve the stress of the job because nursing is a lot of stress. Um, so they always point to try to go back and point to a certain trigger that made it worse. Now, I think my initial trigger was whenever I got my period. Um, and I start have going through puberty and those hormonal changes where is really when I started noticing that something wasn't right about my body. But as things happened to me, it got a little bit worse and worse and worse.
Wow. That's just crazy to me how you started so early on and you just kind of found your way managing through the pain day in and day out. And I'm curious because I know you mentioned your pregnancy and how that affected you at that time. Did it worsen after you had your baby?
Oh my God. Whenever I had that dump of hormones that you have after a baby, oh my God, y'all. I was so depressed because that pain really came on tenfold, y'all. I was like, oh my God, like I just I don't know how I'm gonna live like this in this much pain. Um I was in so much pain that I would have panic attacks. I would be at work and I would have to call my husband from the part of the campus he worked on, and he would come up and help me breathe to get through it because I would be in so much pain. And then the patients, rah, 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 you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So he would have to calm me down and tell me to breathe because I'm telling you, like, the pain was something serious. And then, like I said, my stupid self went and had an accident to increase the pain even more. And I just decided that, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I had a whole lot of suicidal ideations because I'm like, I got my dream job, I have my family, but I don't think I can live with this. I used to say, and I'm almost 50. I used to say like 50, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. It's gonna be a wrap. I don't want to live past 50 or 60 if I gotta deal with this amount of pain. And I've never told anybody this before, but I did have a suicide attempt because the pain was just that great. So the only thing that my doctor could do was increase my pain medicine, which didn't help being a nurse, already having fibro fog. And then you have the fog of the medications. So I had to just decide that I needed to be here for my kids and buckle down and figure out how I was gonna manage this and get through it.
Well, I'm happy you're here today and that you got through it. I mean, I know as a woman, and I can only speak from that standpoint, uh pain and not being heard that okay, something is hurting me inside, and even someone outside of me not understanding I'm experiencing something internally is something that you can't even express. When you
Mhm.
said that you, I guess during your menstrual cycle were in extreme pain at times. I mean, a menstrual cycle is already painful enough, so I can only imagine it was probably 10 times as worse for you, or
Mhm.
20 if not 100. And I
Probably,
mean,
honey.
not, but you mentioned, I know as a medical professional and having to go to work day in and day out and process through the pain, did you ever come in contact with any patients or people you knew or worked with that actually had fibromyalgia or could relate to the symptoms that you were having?
Excellent question. I started to come in contact with more people that were explaining this unknown pain syndrome. Like I said, even at my particular job, the physicians there wasn't even up to par on fibromyalgia. So I was able to help a lot of patients get their diagnosis. So I started realizing in my own mind, like, shit, you are here for a reason. God has a purpose for your pain. Help these people out to get their diagnoses and tell them what works best for you. And I I'm grateful for that, but I ain't gonna lie, man, this pain be something to deal with some days. But I started looking at it as a way to help people instead of just my life is over type thing. And that's what really brought me out of the deep depression that I was in. Um and that's one thing a lot of people, especially black people, they want to talk about back then.
Mm-hmm.
Because an older nurse told me black people do not get depressed, and that's a whole lie.
Yes,
We get
it is.
depressed and we have anxiety, we have all of the above, and I don't think nobody should be ashamed of admitting that they're having a hard time dealing with a situation so they can get help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that because a lot of the times we hush and we silence ourselves because we feel like no one else can relate or cares. And that's why I'm
Hmm.
glad that we're here on Now Included and we're able to share those type of stories to inform other people. But I know as we come to an end, I would definitely want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone else that may be going through a similar journey as your own? Nisi, did you hear me?
I was breaking up.
Yeah, I think we
I was
had a
had
little.
you gonna have to repeat it because I didn't hear you.
Oh, I was just asking what advice you would give to someone who may be going through a similar journey as your own. I think we're having a little disconnection, but don't worry, we're going to
I
get it
will.
on track. We're going to get it on track. And while we're getting that on track, I definitely want to make sure you guys are asking questions in the chat because after this, once we come to a close, I would love for everyone in the chat to ask Nisi the questions that they want so we can go ahead and make sure that your questions are answered as well.
Tell them to, if you're having origin or the etiology.
I think we had a disconnection, Nisi, so I don't think everyone heard you.
Okay, so what was the last question? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So I wanted to know what advice you would give to someone who may be experiencing a similar journey as yours.
I would actually tell them to write write what you ate, write how you feel. Write everything down in a journal for at least 2 months so you can look back and see where your worst pain was and whether or not it's a common denominator. Um, that's the big thing because that's the biggest thing that will help a doctor go ahead and diagnose you with um, fibromyalgia because that depends hugely on your history. So that's my first advice. Go ahead and make a journal. I mean, I was putting things like I ate. a cheeseburger from Wendy's, and I took my medicine at such and such time. I was trying to figure out when the best time to make sure my medicine is on board. It was like I became obsessive with it because I wanted to work. That was my main thing. Like nursing was my passion, is my passion. Next year will be my 30th year anniversary, and
Woo woo.
and you know, I just love to help others. So if anybody out there is experiencing widespread unknown pain syndrome, please contact me and I can refer you to different people in your community that I know through the fibromyalgia network, um, in the state. I know a lot of people in different states that are dealing with this.
That's a great word of advice. Journaling. We had a conversation prior to this, and to me, you mentioned journaling helps you release some of your thoughts. It's almost
Mhm,
therapeutic to get those thoughts out, because it can get lost in translation. Um,
mhm,
I would say too, just to kind of piggyback off of that, because I think these moments are great times to inform others. When you go to the doctor, you before you even go, you need to write down all the things that are ailing you, because you
mhm,
seem to forget in those moments. Okay, I experienced this and I don't want to forget anything, because those things are
mhm.
very important to, express to your doctor so they can properly diagnose you, I would say, for sure.
Doctors use subjective and objective data to
Yes,
diagnose you with different things. So make sure that you have a concise list of what's wrong, when you notice the most pain, when you notice the least pain, how you feel after exercising, like all of that you should have down and wrote down in a journal.
absolutely. I believe we have one question in the chat, and I want everybody to be able to get their questions answered. So if you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat, because we have our wonderful Denise King, also known as Anisi. I call her Nisi. And we have one question, which is, what support groups helped you, and how do you meet, virtual or in person?
Back then, like I said, I had a cell phone, but my cell phone was one of those ones you put in your car and had to put that big antenna on top. So we have virtual meetings and stuff back then. But what was so dope about the doctor that I would refer to, he had a whole support team already. He had a whole support group where we were able to sit down in a circle and everybody kind of, had that support within each other to let each other know, like, now we all can't be experiencing the same thing. We don't know each other. And they're
Mm.
telling us this is in our head. Whenever you can say when a thunderstorm, like your muscles start tensing up and aching. Like it was like we were able to relay the same symptoms, and I was like, oh my God, like somebody know what I'm going
You
through.
have a home now, yeah.
Girl, I was like, y'all don't know how much this means to me to hear somebody has the same symptoms. Because I'm not gonna lie, my family told me I was lazy, especially I was raised in my teen years by my sister. She was like, "You just trying to get out of cleaning up or going to school or whatever." Like everybody thought it was in my head, and to actually hear somebody else voice the same symptoms I had was worth more than all the money in the world.
I bet.
Um,
I bet. We have another question in the chat. Is fibromyalgia something that is hereditary? If so, do you fear your kids would one day have to go through this?
they are looking at whether or not there's a gene associated with fibromyalgia.
Mhm.
Um, I know for myself, autoimmune diseases run in our family. I think my grandma probably had fibromyalgia because she had a lot of the same symptoms that I had. My paternal grandfather. So I do worry with my daughter because she do show little signs and symptoms here and there that one day I hope she don't. I pray to God that she don't. But it's scary,
Mhm.
Um, it's just scary to think about because it's like I saw back after I had my kids, I was thinking like, oh my God, am I gonna bring somebody in the world that's gonna have to experience the same thing I experienced? And
It's okay. Take a minute.
there's some guilt there because she calls me sometimes with different symptoms and stuff, and I be like praying to God, please don't let her have to deal with the life I've had to deal with. Even though I've learned to make the best of my life, no mother wants to see their kids, you know, um, go through stuff. So I'm hoping and praying that she doesn't have to experience anything like this.
You know, as you say that, I think having conversations like these open the door for new treatments, different ways to manage our issues, medical issues, talking about it, getting it out there so we can find solutions to help the future. And that would be your daughter in this case. And I feel
Mhm.
like as long as we continue to have these conversations and bring them to light, is always going to be a possibility for us to get better going forward. So I don't think that's something that you should, fret your nerves about. Um, we'll
You
get
know,
through this.
I said, at least God forbid if she does end up with something that I have, hopefully I can be that support that I needed whenever I was first diagnosed. Um, Me and my daughter, as a matter of fact, we're so much alike, we look just alike that we got this tattoo. I don't know if you guys can see it, but we both got the fibromyalgia ribbon on our left wrist. She wanted it there because, the left side is closer to the heart. So we got this tattoo together. That's the only tattoo I've ever got because I didn't want to put a bumper sticker on my Bentley. But I just thought it was the cutest idea. So I went ahead and did that with her. Um, she has also been a support to me. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that back here in the background. But she does paintings and stuff, and she did the fibromyalgia ribbon for me. And it says God has a purpose for your pain. And that's how I try to deal with it. Like, not why me, but why not me? And I can help a whole lot of other people that's dealing with it. But like I said, of course, no parent wants to see their child suffering with anything. So, there's a little bit of guilt there, but I just hope that, you know, with the things that I've learned, if she do end up having symptoms, I can help her out.
She
Um,
got you.
yes, and I do want to say for all the spiritual people out there, um, God, God has been my savior, my go-to. Um, I praise God because whenever I did made that suicide attempt, I heard in my head that you cannot die because you have bigger things to do. That came to my mind, and without God, I'm guaranteeing you I would not be here right now.
And that's on Niecy's word and mine.
Okay.
For sure.
And Mary had a little lamb.
And Mary has. Well, we're gonna answer one more question, and then because we are at time, guys. Um, Misdiagnosis is less common now than when you were first feeling symptoms, but it still exists. What advice would you give to others that might be having troubles being taken seriously today?
At the food, not getting arrested to the point, not getting arrested and fight nobody, but be adamant in what you feel. Be your own advocate. Tell them no. I feel this, I feel that, I feel this. Have your list, stand on it. And if that doctor won't listen, move on to another doctor. Um, because there's a lot of research, a lot of things that can help out there now that nobody was even aware of back in the early to late 90s.
Absolutely.
Stand
Well,
your ground, y'all.
stand that ground and let them know what it is, for sure, for sure. Well, I want to thank you, Niecy, for taking time out to talk with us today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh.
And of course, what you thought? What you thought? So I want to say to all of the now included community that we appreciate your time as well, that you take in to watch the live today and learn a little more about fibromyalgia. Going forward, I would love to hear you guys' stories, your journeys, and share them with the community, because that's what Now Included is all about, the voice for the
and,
underrepresented.
and guys, I'm always available. Like, I get my messages. My messages is one of the things that Now Included I check every day, even if I don't post. If you have any questions regarding disability, any of that kind of stuff, especially if you are a vet, make sure you contact me. I'm Aunt Nisi in the community, and I can lead you to different resources and people in your community. That's one thing that I'm really passionate about. I love to be able to be there and give you those resources that you need so you can go ahead and get started in your treatment. um you know it's a lot of things that I didn't get into as far as exercise and all this stuff like that, that I would love to talk to different people if you do have the disorder, that I can walk you through some of the things that help me out.
Absolutely. I don't want to, okay. I know I said this was the last message, but because she has been in here for a while, thank you for watching our live. I want to answer her question real quick, if you could, Nisi. Why do they say this is not a disability?
Well, it is. um it really affects your thinking, it affects your mobility, um it affects your whole life. So I just feel like if you're at a doctor that's telling you it's not a disability, you need to get another doctor. If you're trying to get on disability, I will find you the best lawyer for that in your area that wouldn't require any money up front. Um, and they'll just help you through the disability process. But you can get disability and be classified as disabled with fibromyalgia. So I'm a resource. Y'all reach out and we're right at time. I love everybody in the Now Included community. Thank you guys for rocking with us. Invite your family, invite your friends, because we're just here to help.
Absolutely. And what can I say? Nisi said it all. Nisi said it all. So we want to thank everyone for watching. Please reach out to us if you want to share your stories. I'll be more than happy to talk with you. And thank you for everybody who joined. And we out.